1, 2, 3, 4.
And we are back with Moms and Mayhem, and we are joined by a local celebrity, Andie Summers from 92.5 XTU radio station. She is the host there. Hi, Andie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, guys. I am so honored to be part of this. Thank you so much for asking me. This is exciting.
Well, I wish we had asked you a long time ago because I'm sure you have tips that you could give us because you do this for a living, like a real living. Like you make money and talking, correct?
I do. It's so, there, as maybe you've realized, it's like as long as you have something to say, there's someone willing to listen, which is awesome, right? I mean, especially for you ladies, because I've listened to a bunch of your episodes so far. I'm like, they got stuff to say. But yeah, no, I am a podcast virgin. You're my first. This is
Wow.
so exciting.
I can't even believe that. Like,
No.
Wow.
crazy. Wow.
I refuse to believe that.
Yeah.
I've only taken a few virginities, but this one is definitely my favorite, I think.
Oh my gosh. We need to memorialize this moment.
We
Yes.
do.
Put it on
MaM's
a
popped her
t-shirt.
cherry.
And then, Andie, think about it. Let's think long term. This could be one of your questions. Are you smarter than a fourth grader? It could be, what was Andie's first podcast?
Yes.
Right.
There you
Ooh.
go.
That, Robin, that was a great way to get us some publicity right there. You're brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, I actually already mentioned you this morning on the air because I was so excited that I was going to be doing this and nervous. So I've already given you a little bit, but I haven't shared any links yet because I was like, I have to see how this goes to see if the people who normally listen to me on the air, we're pretty squeaky clean. And you,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say you ladies are necessarily squeaky clean.
We squeak.
So I was like, I'm
when
so
we are
afraid you're
clean.
going to pull that dark side out of me. And then I'm going to have to be like, maybe you
It
don't want to
happens.
listen.
Yeah,
Well, we'll keep
sometimes it
this as
happens.
toned down as possible. Maybe
go for
our
it.
goal should be that my pop your cherry comment should be as dirty as we get. Can we handle that, girls? What do you think? I
And
don't
then
know.
we'll have you come back to the dark side. So
Yes.
we'll get
Okay.
the light and love and light version of you now. And then the next time we have you on, it will be like the naughty late night stuff that you're probably
Yeah.
not
Like
going to
it.
share with your
I
listeners.
like it. Andie
Yes.
gone bad. Yeah.
I love it. Andie gone wild.
It happens. People who come on our show, it does tend to happen. We do kind of welcome them to the dark side quite often.
We do.
So-
We do. It's a thing.
And you're already drinking, which is a good sign.
Yes, that is a good sign.
Cheers.
That's a great sign. So,
Yeah.
I'm actually honored and a little flabbergasted that you were nervous because I'm still nervous doing this kind of stuff. So I feel good that an experienced person was nervous to talk to me. It feels good. I don't know why.
Yeah. Well,
So-
I mean, it's especially nerve-wracking for you, Leah, because you're the one, you're like the ringleader who's trying to keep everybody on course, right?
Yeah,
So that is
right.
nerve-wracking.
It is.
And it's much easier. But just know this: people love when things aren't perfect. No one loves perfection, right? Don't we judge those people? Like
I do.
Yeah.
you might look
Is
good
that a
now,
Karen?
but
Is that what we call a Karen?
Yes.
Karen, yeah.
That's
Yes.
a Karen. We don't
Yeah,
like
I
Karens.
prefer
exactly.
Becky
And we
the
don't
boomer.
like that. So that should take a little of the trepidation out of it. Like the more you screw up, the more people love it. So just
Well, good. I
live
hope
it.
so. Then our show should be winning awards soon.
I
But so let's get into you. Let's talk about you. How long have you been in radio, first and foremost?
Okay, so I got into radio. I was a communications major at Bloomsburg University in the 90s.
Yeah,
And
Bloom.
so I started there. I really eventually, once I was a senior, I wanted to get into television. I wasn't interested in radio at all, but took a little part-time job at a little itty bitty radio station in Bloomsburg in like 95-ish.
Oh, wow.
And then they offered me a full-time job when I graduated. So I'm like the path of least resistance girl. I didn't need a resume or anything. So I was like, sure, I'll take that job. This is awesome, right?
Right.
And then, I went to a bigger market after a few months and worked in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton market, which is where I'm originally from. So I worked there for 3 years. That's where I met my husband. And then I've been in Philly since 99.
That's
Okay.
incredible.
At
That's
XTU.
incredible.
Yeah. So it's 21 years this year.
But so I did, or Robin did narc me out. I am not a country music fan. I admit that.
That's it.
I'm
Somebody cut her
also,
mic.
and I don't know if you could tell from the show, but I am actually a huge Howard Stern fan. So I don't know if that comes.
As am I.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I listen to. I really don't listen to radio, but I admire anyone that can do what you do, or even what he does, for the amount of time that you spend just talking and filling air. And also, I am fascinated by talking up records. Like, is that still a thing? Like, how do you do that? How do you time that? How does that work? Like, how do you top up a record?
Okay, so right, so we call that part of the record an intro, right? That part of the song before they start singing, that's the intro. And if you talk right up until they start singing, that's called hitting the post.
Hitting the post. Okay.
Yeah. So like new DJs, like when people first get in the business, you're just dying every time to hit the post, right? Like you want to use every second of that intro just to, it doesn't even matter what you say, but as long as you finish your sentence just before they start singing, it's like, drop the mic. I'm in. I'm golden, right? So, you know, we actually have little cheater clocks in the studio, and they tell us how long each intro is, and it'll count us down. But once you hear a song and you know it, you can just feel it. You can kind of tell. So, you know, you just, after doing it that long, you've got it down.
Now, what you're saying, and I'm going to get back to your interview, but I had to ask this question. So when you're doing it, are you doing that off the cuff, or do you have a script when you're talking?
No script. No script. So we'll normally we know what we're talking about, or at least one of us. So I'm, you know, in a morning show, there's often more than one person. So I get to work with Dave Cruz in the morning right now. And if he starts with a thought, I won't know where he's going. If I start with a thought, he won't know where I'm going. But that's kind of the beauty of it, is that we both know the constraints of the time that we have to get our thoughts in, and we'll always leave each other room for reaction, but we want it to be genuine. So we just learn to be as brief as possible, and, you know, like faster and funnier every time. Be funnier, faster. Just do it.
Yeah,
so we stand up most of the time.
It is astonishing to me.
Yeah.
You stand up while you're doing it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing of like thinking on your feet is absolutely true. So Howard sits. A lot of talk show hosts sit because they need to relax. They have a lot of time to fill, right? But we're having to get whole conversations in 12 seconds. So we stand when we do those.
Well, I'm taking that advice. I think we should start standing up on the shows, ladies. No more sitting down. We have to stand up the whole time.
Well, you will find your energy level will be completely off the charts.
I bet you it will.
For hours, Andie.
Yeah.
Hours.
Yeah,
we do.
We could probably do an hour show if we had to stand.
Yeah, because we'd be like,
we talk a lot, and we have a hard time reeling ourselves back in sometimes. And
as you've noticed, I've gotten through exactly one question about Andie. Exactly.
Well, I have a
minutes.
question. Speaking of talking a lot, who was your favorite co-host? Mine was Doc.
Ooh, throwing her on the spot.
That is really, you're putting me on the spot. So of course I love working with Dave. He and I have been together for just about 2 years now. And he's a great guy who's been in the market for a long time. And I really respect him. I love Dave Cruz. He's a great guy. But I have loved each of the guys that I've worked with. Now, again, they call me like the Black Widow at XTU because I've gone through so many co-hosts, but I've been there for 21 years.
Right.
So it's not really fair to criticize me for that. It's not my fault they leave.
It's not my fault.
Most of the
I
time
get that.
But you have such a great relationship with every single one of them. Like there hasn't been anything that
you know of
as a viewer that I've noticed that there's been. I'm sure there's behind the scenes. I mean, we have behind the scenes. I found out these two ladies hate me last night. So you know, that's besides the point.
Happens.
But I was going to the XTU concerts when I was 18 and pregnant. The free ones. Like I met, you know, when Sugarland was there, I met so many people when they had the meet and greets, and then it turned into this ridiculous thing. And I haven't been back in the last couple of years only because it's not the same. You know,
well,
it's just
but we
not the
charge
same.
for tickets now, and that totally changed. So it's getting back to
What
once
it
we
used to
put a
be.
price on the ticket, it's much less chaotic and
Yeah, we used to
and
run around and all this. Amanda and I did a ticket run with our babies, you
Yeah, we
know,
did.
together.
So,
Well, I think-
so
yeah.
this is the problem: is Robin likes to jump in with her personal stories in the middle of things, and
Always.
she throws us off track, and I can't. How do I pull her back in? What do
No,
I
you
do?
do
So
a good job though. I'm telling you, I listened to a bunch of your podcasts and I was like, yeah, this girl's got it. Like, you know how to reel everybody back in. You're doing a really great job.
Thank
Okay, but
you,
I'm going to
but-
get back to Robin's question. So
go ahead.
I love Dave. Frank and I were really good friends. I adore Frank. I worked with him for 3 years. He was just before Dave. And then he retired. So like no one left because we had a bad relationship. I 100% love and respect Doc. He and I still talk regularly. We still share information with each other. We're like always giving each other show prep and stuff like that. So he's really awesome. And it's funny because he was my husband's boss before I met my husband.
Huh.
So
Oh,
then, and
wow,
I've never
okay.
picked any of my partners. They've always been given to me. It's like arranged marriages.
Radio marriages.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
weird. And then before Doc, I worked with a guy, Chris Stevens, for 9 months, who really was not, that was an unfair situation because they threw him in mornings, which was exciting for him, but he wasn't ready for mornings. So he didn't even last the year. And before that, I worked with Scott Evans for 8 years. So, and I learned so much from him. I was so young and like such a punk, and he dealt with a lot with me. You know, I learned so much from each of them that I've worked with. It's been a fantastic experience.
I love that. So back to your earlier career, you said you're from the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area?
Yeah.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Dallas High School.
I went to Wyoming area high school.
No, you did not.
Yes, I did. That's crazy. Like I could throw a stone to Dallas. That's crazy.
That's so
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah. You probably know about that. That'll be another episode. One of the serial killers I'm going to do is from Dallas. Hugo Zielinski
Yes.
was a yeah.
Awesome.
Right?
So he graduated with me.
I was going to ask that question.
Mhm.
Okay.
Wow.
Dave loves bringing this up. He's like, because Andie knows all those serial killers. And I'm like, all he did was bury the body. I refuse to believe I know someone who actually murdered someone. All he did was bury the bodies.
I stood on the graves. I was at a party with his younger brother at that house, like a group of us. So apparently I was standing on the graves when the patio was first put in. So yeah, that's creepy. Yeah, that's my true crime brag. I do it
Partied
all.
with him.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
My gosh.
Partied with him.
Own
is
it. You
coming
did.
out.
Just own
did.
it. Own it
Okay.
and take it.
Yeah, I partied with him. I guess you could say that. Yeah,
It
I
explains
partied.
a lot then.
It does explain a lot.
It does.
So small world. Did you work for? Have you always been in country? Have you always done that? So
Yeah,
did you
and
work for
what's
Froggy
funny-
101?
I did. I did
Okay.
mornings with Jim Rising for 3
Yeah?
years. I was dawn
Wow.
early, and so it was the Rising early in the morning show. Because his real name is Jim Rising, and he'd been in the market for so long. Like, I remember listening to him before I got into radio, and so he's still a dear friend too. He's pretty awesome. But I worked with him for 3 years. They made me call myself Dawn Early because it was that, or I was gonna have to have a frog name. So there was like
Yeah.
Amphibian and Pollywog and yeah,
They
I was
did
like,
that at that
I'll
station.
take Dawn Early.
Nothing
That's fine.
catchy.
Yeah, so funny.
So when you came to Philadelphia, is it a huge change, or is radio basically the same in every market?
It's no, and it has more to do, I think, with company ownership and management. So it's just like any other company. The industry, like my job hasn't changed. Times have changed. So, right, like technology has made my job change and that sort of thing. But I think otherwise it's pretty much, my job stays the same, but the environment changes depending on management.
Now, with you stated that all of your co-hosts have been male. Is that right?
Yeah.
What is it like being the only woman working in a very predominantly male industry?
Yeah. That's one of those things that comes up all the time, as it should. because, I don't make as much as a man probably would if he were, had my position at my radio station. However, I also have made the choice to stay here for 21 years. Whereas a man who may not or at least someone else in my position may be willing to move to follow the money. So
Right.
I don't know. I think that's just a personal choice that I've kind of dealt with a lot of, I don't want to say suppression. I never felt like I was suppressed, but I know that in a lot of instances, I made less money than my partners did. And that's just something that I was willing to do because I love where I work. So for me, it's more quality of life. But it's not necessarily always the case, and it won't always be the case. But it's such a tricky thing because I'm all for equality, workplace equality. But you also kind of set your own stage. So
Yeah.
So
what is most important to you? You know what I mean? And even what we're going through now, and I heard you ladies talking about this, it's so tough with this pandemic and going back to school, but I work but my kids are going to be home. And so my husband's not going to stay home. If you're lucky enough to have the husband who might be willing to help, right? He's not going to do it. So I'm the mom and I have to do it. And why does the mom have to do it? And I think it's a privilege to get to do that stuff. I love being a woman. I love that I'm going to take care of my kids better than anyone can. And my husband is the most amazing dad, right? I married a guy who gets the kids up every morning and gets them ready for school. And so he can do all that stuff. But I love that in the end, I'm going to take on that responsibility if that's what it comes to. I'm proud of that. And if that means that I'm going to leave my career to do it, that's my priority. And I just appreciate it. So I think that's what women empowerment is all about. Boy, did that take a turn.
That was a beautiful.
That is great.
That was beautiful.
That was a great answer. I don't think there's any answer that's better than that. It was, yeah. And you could tell you were struggling with that answer. Were you afraid that you were going to sound too non-feminist maybe?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I would go to these radio seminars and there's always a women's panel and I try to avoid it because it's a lot of, but I deserve, and why aren't their names on the show? And why, I didn't, it's the Andie Summers show now, but this is the first time, and it's been the Andie Summers show for 2 years, but I've been the co-host of the morning show for 21 years.
It's taken 19 years to get that name.
But I didn't even ask for it, right? To me, that's not important. I have a job. I'm happy. It's, and then they were like, well, you're the one who's been here the longest. This is why people are listening. So I kind of get the reality of that, but that's not, so that part of the conversation makes me feel uncomfortable because I feel like I've never been that woman who is, raw, I need to make more and do more and break that glass ceiling. And so I feel like people kind of look down on me. Some people do look down on me because of that. But now that I'm in my 40s, I'm kind of like, you know what? This is just who I am.
You.
So if you don't like that, then you just, that's just tough. That's on you.
I get that feeling.
You're such an important part of the local Chester County area. You live in Chester County, you always put D'Ambrosio out on there, where you go, Calista Salon, your kids go to St. Joe's. You are and I know people who know you personally and they say nothing but wonderful things about you. And you're such a vital part of XCU. So if you weren't there, what would it be? I still listen to country, but maybe I listen to the Big Eye in the Sky or whatever that radio show is. Cat 105. I listen to 92.5 because of you. And you make it so relatable, and it's so fun. And I'm a big country fan as it is anyway. And somebody who's real and somebody that I relate to is, why I'm going to continue to listen.
Right.
Well, it's been a unique situation for me because when I moved down here, my husband was just my boyfriend at the time. So we moved away from our families, and country music is such a personal format. We know our artists and we know our listeners. So I get to be the conduit, kind of joining those two. But in that respect, I kind of grew up with Jason Aldean and Eric Church and Luke Bryan and those guys because we were all babies in the industry at the same time. Granted, they're on a totally different path than I am. But I also grew up with this amazing country community here in Delaware County, or in the Delaware Valley. They raised me from my, for the last 20 years, so from my mid-20s until now. Like I don't want to live my life without them. I love living in Chester County. I mean, I love all the counties, but I've lived in Chester County for the longest. And, I love being here, and I love getting recognized at Wegmans. I love that since my kids were babies, they could tell when somebody's like, Mom, I think that lady listens to you because she won't stop staring at us,
cute.
So I'm like, all right, well, behave.
Trying to take a
so I don't
picture.
look like the bad mom.
We're still waiting for that. We can't
So
wait for
cute
that to
on
happen. We are Wags once thought that someone did recognize her at Walmart. Turns out she had stickers all over her. So
Yeah, I had a
but
sticker in
that's
my
as
hair.
close as we got to being
I know.
recognized.
Well, that's true. What Robin said, like, when I listen to you, that's the one thing I miss about not working is like listening to the radio on the drive in. Like that was like drop off the kids. Like that's your time. Now it's not the same because I'm up getting kids ready and we're running around. There's always stuff going on. But when you listen to someone like yourself and you are so relatable to your listeners, to your fans, but you're also rubbing elbows with these big, huge stars that people just idolize, and you kind of make those stars relatable. You kind of make them like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that's Jason Aldean, but he's having a normal conversation with Andie Summers. And I think that's really hard in radio in general. I love country. That's my favorite. But, all the stations is having a host that really is connected with the community, but also with the celebrities. It's really hard to find.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
I mean, country music makes it easy, but also getting back to what Leah said about Howard Stern. I mean, I've listened to him. So he is the master interviewer. I think it's all the therapy that he's had. He just knows the questions to pull stuff out, which is amazing. And I love that he's so open about going to therapy and kind of poo-poos people who don't, rather than the other way around, like how times have changed. But I mean, even when you just look at our artists on social media and how open they are, like Jason Aldean, for example. Okay, so I'll just give you a little backstory on him. When he had one song out, Hicktown, very first song, he walks into the studio and he's going to perform it live on the morning show that day. And he's just wearing his ball cap and he just looked like a college kid, like no big deal. And he has this song. He not really Mr. Personality. He's quiet. He's not very outgoing. Like Luke Bryan, huge personality, right? Jason Aldean, nice guy, but just not a huge personality. And then he went through the whole thing with his wife and now his new wife. And so his new wife, they started seeing each other before while he was still married. So that's the nice way to put that. And so many people were so mad at him because we just don't do that in country music, right? Like that's not something that's celebrated. But I will tell you that he is a 100% happier person now than he was before. So I love that Brittany is in his life now. And I love that they are so open on social media with their little babies and they, they're ripping on people for ripping on them because their son Memphis has such long hair and looks like a girl. And, who cares? Like, why do you care? Shut up.
Yeah. Why do you care? That's so true. Why do you care? I'm fascinated by what you just said. So in country music, cheating and divorce and that kind of stuff isn't acceptable for the fans. Is that what you're saying? Like their celebrity should.
We're pretty
conservative.
It's conservative, yeah.
But all the songs are like, I lost my dog. My girlfriend cheated on me.
Stereotypical.
Oh, Leah.
It's true.
Songs.
I mean, maybe
we are bringing back cheating songs.
Cheating songs. My dad grew up in Arkansas. So I know the old school country music. Like I do. Patsy Cline's one of my favorites. I love, of all time, I love Patsy Cline. I really love Johnny Cash, which who doesn't, right?
Of course, yeah.
So that that was all cheating. Is it not that way anymore with country music? But like, dug my key into the side of his pretty little suit.
Yes, so there are a few of those songs. Arent, I hope, like that song. That's the most awesome revenge song ever.
Oh, my mother loved that song. She loved that. She used to play it so loud in the car. So okay, back to your career. So you're in Philadelphia. You've only worked with men, and you're very comfortable doing so. You don't feel that your career has been hurt in any way. Have you ever had? Do you hear about women in radio complaining, like in your market? Does it happen, or is it just something you think people blow out of proportion?
I don't think that it's blown out of proportion for sure. I think that our industry is evolving very slowly, but it is evolving. So, like the CEO of our company, we're owned by Beasley Broadcast Group, and she's a woman. It's a family. It used to be a family. I mean, it's still family run, but it's a public company now. So Caroline Beasley is at the helm, and it was interesting because I was so excited. The last conference we went to, we go to this thing called Morning Show Boot Camp. And it's where morning shows from all over the country get together. And the guy in charge, his name is Don Anthony, he organizes these panels. And so they're your peers that are on the panel just talking about things that we all deal with. And each one is focused on a different topic. And so it's so nice to kind of pick each other's brains and just kind of get the lay of the land and see how everybody else is doing in the industry. But Caroline was on a panel, and she was, the whole thing was brought up with her about, so what do you how, as a woman, how do I get by? And she said, well, I'll just tell you from my experience that I've never walked into a room and thought, I'm the only woman here. She said, I never think about gender. So
good for her.
Maybe
That's a
that's
great
what's
response.
holding you back, and everyone's different. And some people are totally intimidated by that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to figure out how to overcome it and circumvent it. But so yeah, everybody will always attack things from a different angle. So in this market, I'm sure that there's disparity. I'm sure of it. But you make what you negotiate, and no one makes what they're worth. Like that was taught to me early on. No one makes the amount of money that they're worth. People make much more than they are. Some people make less than they are, but you make what you negotiate. So really that should be the skill that we're working on.
Yeah.
Not how much everybody else is making. Right.
Yeah. I love that. I love the I don't see gender. I think that's the best way to look at it. I think if everyone looked at it that way, I think it would be a lot easier to get through life.
Yeah. And I think we're getting there, right? Like as the generations go on, but it's still an old men's clubs. It's still, we're, in some circumstances. So, we're getting there.
Right. It absolutely is.
Yeah, that's true, because even with like our show, we are Moms and Mayhem, but we rarely talk about actual parenting because we all are in the middle of chaos all the time. We're not experts, we bring up our kids, but people expect us to talk about parenting, and
we're not a parenting show.
Yeah, like all these light and fluffy things, and that's just not who we are. But they expect
a certain thing.
They expect us to be like motherly, and this is my Pinterest fine. Like that's not who we are, but that's who people sometimes, when they see our show title, perceive us to be. And then they listen to us and like, oh, well, maybe
they're taken aback by it.
Maybe we're not so much.
Yeah.
But you're so much more, right? Moms aren't just moms.
Yeah.
I don't know a mom who's just a mom. Like we're women, and we're so much more. And I think, like I said earlier, like being a mom, being a wife, I love having those titles. I love that I have that relationship to someone else, but I'm also much more than that. And you guys certainly show it. I applaud you for it.
Thank you.
Oh,
that's very kind of you. So with your career, I want to ask, what's next for you? If you could pull out a crystal ball and see exactly what you want your future in the next 5 years to be, what's next for Andie Summers?
Just keep doing what I'm doing. See, again, that answer doesn't go well with a lot of other audiences,
Really?
People are like, what you wouldn't want to do more? No. Okay. No, I don't want to do more than I'm doing right now. Like I have a house. Hi. I have a house, and I have a husband, and I have 2 kids, and I have a job, and I don't want any more responsibilities. That's not me. I'm barely doing what I'm doing, and I'm not doing much of it all that well, which works well in radio because it's kind of like, oh, Andie makes me feel good about myself because she's such a mess up, right? That's kind of
That's how I feel. Like no matter how bad your life is, it's not as bad as ours. Like really, like I just think the audience
Make you
listens
feel
for that
better.
reason.
Yeah, it's relatable.
which is
We need
great.
that.
For sure, for sure.
And I love that answer. Most people would have some 5-year plan, but you are truly an example, I think, for be happy with what you have. I mean, you have so much. You're a big deal, and you could be aiming for that New York spot or a serious radio show or whatever. And you're happy. And I don't want to use the word content because I don't think that's enough. You seem to be the one person that really has it all. You have the family, you have the husband, you have the great career. What more could you want? And I think that's amazing. That should be applauded.
And thank you, because I am pretty content. Does that mean that every day is roses? No, but you have your ups and downs, and sometimes you have your challenges that make me want to pull my hair out and never want to go to work again, or never want to have to do homework again with the kids, or never, and there are times that I am way down, right? Therapy is amazing. But yeah, I really, when I was younger, I was much hungrier, but I kind of reached this. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. I don't want to be in charge. And I know what I'm good at and what I'm not good at now, right? Like, I know that I'm not a good manager. I'm not. I work well under people. So I don't need to take that next step to be in charge of anyone. I would fail at that. That would be so stressful to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that completely. I just have one more question, and then I'll let you guys take it, because you get up extremely early in the morning. Is that correct?
It is.
What time do you?
3:15.
3:15 in the morning. That is dedication beyond. I can't even imagine waking up at 3:15 in the morning. I'd be in bed right now. So thank you so much for doing this. But so my final question for you is a really simple one. Who is your favorite country music star of all time?
Oh,
that is.
I thought it would be harder.
It's not fair to ask that. Because I like so many for so many different reasons. Like,
can you do your top 3? Do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So first, I'm gonna say Miranda Lambert, wickedly talented.
Love her. I love her.
So talented. I adore. I love Eric Church. So I love his. He's probably, of all the country stars, he's the guy that I listen to the most. So I love him so much. And he's a good guy, like a good guy. I like Miranda's music a lot, and she does a lot for animals, which is great. But I love Eric Church as a human, and I love his music. There's a lot I'm not saying there. And then
I have a follow-up question, so go ahead.
Okay. And then who else? I mean, Keith Urban is such an amazing musician. Brad Paisley is such an amazing musician. But I would go Little Big Town. Little Big Town's probably would be my number 3. Yeah, if not in any order, but my top 3 for sure. They are truly the nicest human beings in the world.
Really? So I'm writing them down. I'm going to check them out in the church guide, because I don't know who they are. No idea.
You'll like Eric Church.
I met him when he first came out, and he reminded me so much of Daryl from The Walking Dead.
Oh, I will love him.
The long hair, the glare, like he was country's bad boy, but he doesn't give a shit. He does what he wants to do. He has, created pathways for himself, and people are following in his footsteps. I mean, and then look at Luke Combs, coming up. You just mentioned the other day that he has more than Jason Aldean. He has a gajillion downloads, way more than Jason Aldean, and he's so new to the game. And he just got married. Congratulations, Luke Combs.
I know. You're gonna probably
he's off the market for me.
Oh, he listens. Donald Trump listens. Joe Biden listens. How many people listen to the show? This guy definitely is going to listen.
Yeah.
I hope they're all taking notes.
I hope so too. So my follow-up question is, who is, of the ones that you've met, who is the biggest diva and who is the nicest celebrity? And if you can't answer this, if you want us to edit out your answers, we will, but I want the answers.
You need to know. Okay, I will. All right, let me think. Okay, as far as a diva goes, and they really don't fly in country music. I mean, I'm not, because it is such a personal format that if you aren't genuinely nice and care about your listeners and stuff like that, you really don't make it. So there's no one super famous right now that I would qualify as a diva. There are people like, you know, I don't think that Miranda Lambert and I would be friends, but but that doesn't make her a bad person. She's just not necessarily my cup of tea, you know. But I respect her immensely. She's been through a lot. She's put other people through a lot too. I'll say that too.
She has. Yes.
There's a lot there that I'm not saying. But what else? So at our anniversary show, and this is a whole bunch of years ago, but this is the biggest diva moment that I've ever experienced in country music. We have this big anniversary show every year, and it used to be back in the day where the whole staff would congregate backstage before the headlining act would come out, and we would all go out on stage and we would all introduce them. And this guy, we were all ready to do that, and this guy made us all stand in a hallway where they were doing laundry, and we had to get out of his way. So it was, I mean, there had to be 40 of us packed in a hallway so that we wouldn't see him. We weren't allowed to talk. We weren't allowed to introduce him. We weren't allowed to go out on stage. We weren't allowed to see him as he walked past us. So he kind of locked us in this like hallway closet thing, and went out on stage, and we were all like, none of us would even go out and watch his show then. And that was Travis Tritt. He was absolutely a diva. Would you say?
My mom would be heartbroken, but Travis Tritt is icky. And I always thought that. I knew he was, and I always thought he was icky.
I would have never I would expect him to like be comfortable living in his like shack out back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why, because his image is not that of fancy pants.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So that was weird. That was a weird moment.
He always seemed dicky. I don't know what it is.
It's the mullet.
Ladies, I know. Yeah, it might be the mullet. I think that's what turns me off with country music. Is just the mullet is very popular there. I just can't.
No, it is not. Oh my gosh, you're killing me. You're so stereotypical. Okay, like I buttoned it up this whole time, but I promise you, if you turn on our radio station tomorrow morning, it is going to be nothing like what you expected as Leah. I promise you that.
Okay,
I promise you
I'm
that.
excited. I will turn it on tomorrow morning. I promise you, I will do that. And at the end, you need to do some plugs so I know exactly where to look to find it.
I want you to text me when you're listening, and I will give you all a shout out.
Oh my God, I will totally do that.
Oh,
I will do that.
Same.
That would be amazing.
When I'm driving to work.
Yeah.
So Leah, you have to get up early.
I will get up
that
super early. I just won't sleep. It'll be easier that way.
You have to get up at 3 though.
No. With all the drama I have going on in my life, I just won't sleep. It doesn't matter. Wags, I know you have some really cool questions. Do you want to ask any questions?
Yeah, I mean, we answered some of them. I'm very curious. I mean, you've been so open as much as you can be to share information with us. Do you find that you have like family and friends that try to pry information out of you about artists that are coming in, or if you have any insight? Like, I feel like I'd be all the time. Like, our world is so small, but the amount of people that message us for whatever's going on in our little community for the tea is incredible. So I can't imagine what it might be for you. So do you have people in your life that are like, Andie, so what's going on with so-and-so?
I think I'm really lucky, and I don't know, I'm lucky that I have a really great network. So I try to be generous when I can, and I think they know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they rarely ask. And those that do ask for things will be like, listen, if the answer is no, it's totally cool. I just didn't want this to be a situation where, where you all of a sudden were like, oh man, you should have told me I had extra tickets to that. So, people will say like, if you come across anything and it's cool, like I would love to go to that show, or just let me know and I'll buy tickets, So, and I don't mind that at all. If you're going under the presumption that chances are I'm just going to buy tickets to this, but if you have free ones, then I'll take them. But radio's changed so much. We used to get free tickets to lots of stuff, and we don't anymore. We don't at all anymore. Yeah, as a matter of fact, our company just made us masks. And I posted a picture of my daughter and I, because there's one that has the Andie Summers show logo on it, which is awesome.
So cool.
I bought them for my family from our station website, because we don't just get them. Like, there's a company that makes them and sells them. And so I had to buy them, and everyone is like sending me private messages like, really? You can't just get, and I'm like, I bought mine. I'm not buying yours.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry.
I
you
could
don't
buy
get
my
that,
own.
but
I may get me an Andie Summers mask. That sounds pretty cool.
There you
That's
go. While you're
sure.
listening to
So
Travis Tritt down the road.
yeah.
On the inside.
So really, there are people that I don't really know that know me through Facebook that will ask for stuff, but my friends and family don't really ask for stuff. To answer your question, Amanda.
Until I come along. Hi.
Yeah, Robin will.
Robin.
You need to
changes it
delete
all.
her. Yeah, block her immediately.
Like, do it now while
Do
we're
it now.
recording. So the only other thing that I really was curious about was you obviously you have children. You talk about your children on the show. You have these kind of crazy hours. How do you find that balance that you can be so good at what you do, but also still be like this amazing mother? Like, I find we record later at night. Usually we start around 8 or 9 to record. And, we're always trying to find that balance with our children, husbands working, all of that. Like, how do you do that? What suggestions may you have to someone that is in this industry who wants to do it all, but still like be a good mom? Because it's a struggle.
It is a struggle, and there is no balance. So I feel like that word needs to be stricken from everything that has to do with parenting. There is absolutely no balance. You can't, right? Because there's always going to be a stronger priority. And it's so easy to say, my family is my priority, and they will always come first. But that's not always the case, right? Like, realistically, we know that there are days when I'm like, I have work to do. You have to be quiet. You have to just get on your devices, and I don't care how long you're there. I have this to do. Well, that's not making my kids my priority, right? And so that is just a realistic way of life. It's a juggle. It's a dance. But it's not a balance by any stretch of the imagination. So I would say, though, just as long as you're just honest about that and follow your heart and set a good example, because, when I was growing, and I don't know how old you lovely ladies are, you look like you're all much younger than I am. So I'm going to say that maybe your parents were a little bit different than mine were. But my mom and dad, I never felt like I lacked anything. They always gave me attention when I wanted it, but I didn't get a lot of attention. I kind of was on my own a lot, just kind of figuring stuff out. And we don't do that anymore as parents. We are in our kids' business all the time. Right.
Yeah.
So parenting has totally changed. And my mom didn't work for a big part of me growing up, and she still would have coffee with the ladies and be like, Andie, go play. Like, I'm on the phone, or I'm on, and I never felt like I was being shunned. That was just life. But we don't do that. My mom was not sitting on the floor with me playing when I was growing up. They showed me attention in other ways, but I wrestle around with the kids all the time. Like, so parenting has changed, and we as moms put way too much pressure on ourselves to try to get it all done and think that we can do it all perfectly. And we can't. I mean, that's not realistically. Yeah.
Thank you for admitting that. It is I think that it's such an image to uphold. Now, I work. Those, Amanda and Leah, both are stay-at-home moms, and I think both are equally as challenging. Being a working parent and then being a stay-at-home parent,
For sure.
There's no break in either. There's constantly things that are changing, schedules that you have to adjust and things like that. But I'm so tired of those people who appear to have it all together.
And they,
They
don't,
don't.
though. They
don't. You know, your house may be a mess. You may be in your pantry crying, eating Oreos, drinking, boxed wine, hiding from your kids. No matter how you appear to have it all together, nobody does. And I've owned my mess. I've owned my disaster. I am like Pigpen from freaking Snoopy, and there's a tornado that follows me, and it is just you get sucked into it, and then it's like a vortex. You can't get out of it, and that's my life. That is the chaos that I create. That is daily in my life. And I make no apologies for anything.
I'm friends with Katie Falinger. You might remember her. She used to be a meteorologist she's still a meteorologist, but she was on CBS 3 for a long time, and she did weather for us in the morning on XTU as well. And she you might remember her because she was pregnant with twins and was getting ripped on social media.
I do know who she is. Yes, I remember that.
I mean, it was awful, and it went national. Like, the things that people said to her were just awful. And and then she had the kids, and she stuck through it, right? Like, she has so much grace. It's amazing. But her job is to make herself look perfect, and meanwhile she's got these 2 toddlers at home, and her husband works from home, so he'd be with the kids in the morning while she's at work. She would come home, and I'd be talking to her in the morning, and I'm like, Katie, you need to nap. And she's like, nope, that's good. This is my time with the girls. And I'm like, you're like, I could tell.
Wow.
Like, I'm have a few years on her. So I was like, this is weird. So eventually she just up and quit and found her own happiness and built it, and is now, she just wrote a book. And you should totally have her on the show. And she's the most beautiful, most inspiring person. So you guys would love her. I will get you in touch with Katie Falinger for sure.
Thank you.
That would be amazing.
Because her book it's a quick read, but you're reading it and you're like, yes. And I'm crying with her as she's in the fetal position under the kitchen table one day when she came home from work, because it was just, all of it is just too much, and we push ourselves, like, and but it's because we're all trying to measure up to every other mom. Right. So we all put that pressure on each other, and we're not doing it on purpose. There's no malice in it, but it's still there. Right. That's just how we're built.
Somebody else's standards. It's their perception and your perception, and it just gets very, very skewed. I have a question to go back to you, to your interview and to your career. What do you think is your biggest accomplishment, like, to date, from the beginning, 1999 to now? Your biggest accomplishment? And you do a lot of charity work, you do a lot of a lot.
Yeah, gosh. I guess the easiest thing that just popped in my mind, when I was working with Doc, we won a CMA in 2013, and that was
amazing.
Yeah.
You won a CMA?
Yeah.
They were
amazing.
in. Yes.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Market Personality of the Year. So you send in like an 8-minute recording of the show, like little clips from the show, and then it gets sent to other members. There's like a board of people that listens to them, and they rank them and vote on them and rate them somehow. I don't know. I'm never on those boards. And and then we became finalists, and then we ended up winning that year, and it was the most amazing experience. Like, I felt like a bride again. As a matter of fact, it was neat because we got to fly out to Nashville and be at the award show and be up on stage and accept the award and get all glammed up, and that was awesome. But you leave with your award, and it's in this big box. And so I'm not going to put it in my luggage. It's my carry-on, and I'm walking through the airport, and airport workers are stopping me, and they were like, oh, "You won an award. Can I get my picture with you?" And they knew that I wasn't an artist, but they were still just like, you're like a bride, It's like your wedding day. Oh, it was so exciting.
It's exciting to watch and witness that.
And that is so crazy. I have always wanted to talk to someone that has won a real award at a real award ceremony. And now I have all the questions again. So my first question is, did you know beforehand that you won, or do you find out when you're sitting in that audience?
No, they definitely tell us ahead of time that you win, because not everybody's radio station will send them out. Like, we had to pay our own way.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. But worth it. But we were able to work out something with another record company. And so we were doing broadcasts from their studios and interviewing their artists and stuff like that. So they kind of helped out with hotels and things, which was awesome. But there's just lots of regulations about who's allowed to pay for things. But so we flew out because we knew. And so that way you also know to dress appropriately and that sort of thing. Yeah. And it was, so, okay, little bit of, it's the same award. Like when you're on stage, they hand the same award to every winner. And then you get your real award either backstage or afterwards once it's engraved and stuff. So like the artists don't know whether or not they
don't. Okay.
That going
radio
to be my question,
personalities do, because otherwise we wouldn't be there. Yeah. We wouldn't have gone otherwise.
I always wondered if, like, especially the Academy Awards, like, they know beforehand. They're trained actors. Of course, they're like, but I think maybe it is genuine sometimes. You could tell. Yeah, sometimes.
For sure. But yeah, no, they tell the radio personalities just because otherwise we wouldn't have gone. And they give us really good seats. So I was in the third row.
Yeah, you were right up
front. Remember that show, Nashville? We were sitting with the cast of Nashville. Like it was the most awesome.
Oh, that is so cool. That is really cool.
Like, did you have a team like getting you all glammed up? Did you have like the dream team, or are you responsible for that yourself?
Well, no, I'm responsible for it myself. But you had mentioned Callista. I was working with a stylist there at the time who also she like took me shopping and helped me pick out the perfect dress. And then I went in ahead of time and she did my hair and she had somebody help me with my makeup so that I knew what to do. So when I got to Nashville, I could kind of reproduce it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Wow.
Wow.
So much fun.
All right, Andie, we have kept you. I could talk to you for another 5 hours. So you're going to have to come back on the show again if you would.
I would love that. You guys are lovely.
Oh, thank you. There are so many people that will disagree with you on that. But Andie Summers said we're lovely. I think that might be our new show intro.
I will need her to say love your show, because that is what we are putting out. It's the only thing. Love your show. Andie Summers listens to MaMs. That's all you need to know.
It's like a free cameo.
Moms and Mayhem, love your show.
Yay! We are awesome.
Thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun. And I mean,
thank you.
You popped my cherry, so I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We did.
Thanks for accepting a message from our crazy stalker fan.
Yeah, that too.
Thank you.
That too.
You were so funny. I was looking at it on my phone and I was like, I've never done a podcast. Yeah, like I don't know who Robin is. Okay. And you were like, I'm freaking out right now.
That is so cool.
She messaged like, you guys will never. We have like this group executive board group chat going on, and Robin was like, you guys will never believe what just happened. And there was like a text message, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? I was like, oh my God. I was like,
yeah, they're freaking out. And I'm like, who?
And then Leah came to see me that day, and I was like, it's Andie freaking Summers. And she was like, and I'm like, oh my God.
But then
why are we friends?
But the trick is, as soon as you Google someone like that, if it's like a ton of information, I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I couldn't wait.
She was. She was
You're
like,
a big
this is
deal.
Incredible. Yeah.
What came up? When you Googled, like, what did you see?
It was just like your show and a little bit of information. There's a Wikipedia page too, I believe. I can't remember if it was Wikipedia or if it was.
Your Bloomsburg University interview is in there when, you said that you get up at 3:30 and you prep and do all this stuff. So that, that you graduated in 96. So all that, I mean, it's all good stuff. It's, there's nothing not to like about you.
Yeah, no, nothing like that. And then like Facebook pages and like you can like search hashtags and stuff. And I was interested. You're very interesting, but you are so much cooler in person. And I really can't wait to listen to your show. I'm super excited to do it. I really am.
Well, thank you. And once this whole COVID thing is over and we're allowed to have people in the studio, maybe one day when Dave's out, you guys can come in and help me.
I'm on my way.
That'd be fun.
My way.
We will
out
be
of my
out
way,
now.
ladies.
I would legit like cry about that. That would be the coolest thing ever. That
I
would
just
be
want to
like
watch. Like I want to watch you do your thing, sit there like with my snacks and watch you
Yeah.
and Dave and
You would
just,
totally
like,
do that.
observe. I mean, I did it, at a previous radio station. I'm not going to say which one. It is also a morning station, and it was interesting just to sit back and observe and just watch how they do everything. And then when they cut and they're off air and they push the mics out of the way, and then the profanity that comes out of their mouth,
yeah.
and then the voice turns right back on the minute they go
Preston and
back
Steve.
live.
Was it
Yes.
Preston and Steve?
Preston and
Yeah.
Steve.
It was
Yeah,
funny
I
because
knew
their
it, too.
studio's right next to ours, and I was talking to Kathy about that, and she was like,
Yes.
"Do you and Dave curse when you're not on the air? Because that's all we do."
Yes.
That
That is all they do.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's weird how your personality just changes once that mic
Mhm.
turns on.
I have so now I even have more questions. I want to know about Preston and Steve. Like, do you know like Opie and Anthony? Like, do you know people like that?
I don't know Opie and Anthony. Like I've never met Howard Stern. So the national guys, I don't think that I really
You don't know. There's a
But
couple
no.
Philly ones whose names I have to remember, but next time you're on, I want to ask you about them and see if you know them. You could spill all the tea. Because
All right.
we were gentle. We knew you were a virgin, so we were gentle this time around. But next time, trust me, it'll get more aggressive. So-
Awesome. No, really, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, you, get on the dance floor. Let your head down tonight. Let's have some fun. Hey, you, get on the dance floor. Let's live and laugh tonight. Let's have some fun.
Moms and Mayhem, love you, love your show.